responsibility now that you got them all cranked up, they're all coming?
No, I don't feel weight. I feel wind underneath my freaking wings, man. That's what I feel.
Wind underneath our freaking wings, man. Here we go. That was just a quote from Dan Campbell as he did this morning's press conference about the team's expectations, how he's feeling about those expectations from the fan base, from the media. Just came out a couple days ago that the Ford Field has for the first time sold out the entirety of their season tickets. So the hype is real. They feel that pressure, but Dan Campbell's not letting that pressure get to him. He's letting it build up, let him build up the team, build up those expectations. And as long as they have momentum going into camp, going into the Giants coming into town this upcoming week, it's all going to come together for them. So I'm super pumped. I'm super happy with, that quote that Dan said and how everything's kind of shaping out. I want to take this video to highlight some of those winners and some of those losers so far in camp. Some people who need to step it up and some people who are just surprises, right? A lot of these rookies are coming in and showing flashes of what they can be, and it has me super excited about what this team and its ceiling might be for the 2023 season. And let's get into it. One of the big winners so far has been Gardner Johnson. I made a video about him and how he's going to bring this defense up to that next level, and he's already showing that leadership so far in camp. There's a big difference of when he's on the field and when he's off the field. When he's off the field, the defense is still good, but they lack that kind of playmaker that CJ's been showing so far in training camp. When he's on the field, he makes his presence felt, not only from a playmaking standpoint, but also from a leadership standpoint as well. He's a very vocal guy. He's telling these rooks and these veterans how to get into place, how to get in position, a very seamless transition for the defense. Whereas maybe last year or the year before, there was a lot of barking, going back and forth, getting people in line, getting people in place. Whereas now it's one seamless motion. So that tells me a couple things. One, this defense is a lot further ahead than where they should be right now. They're digesting the information, they're digesting the calls, and they know how to get into position quick. Right, we run a very heavy man scheme, and sometimes it's a split zone as well, but it kind of depends on what the offense is showing. But the defense knows how to react. When a guy goes in motion and we split the strong side over to the weak side and that wide receiver comes sprinting across, and all of a sudden you have a 4-set wide receiver over here with a running back, and that becomes a strong side. Those defensive backs now know how to get into place. And that has a lot to do with Gardner Johnson. One, his leadership and being vocal, and two, his experience. I think he's going into his 4th or 5th year, so there's a lot that he's seen so far. And also brings that big playmaking ability as well. So being able to get up there, get into the box, lay a hit, get in front of the balls, knock him down. He has been a big winner so far this year, and has me super pumped on what he's going to bring to the table for our upcoming year. Another big winner is going to be Broderick Martin. This is a name to remember, be on the lookout for. He was our 96 overall pick, someone who Brad Holmes traded up for to make sure he wanted to snag him. Big, mean, I think he's 6'5", 330 pounds, just a monster of a dude. He's going to be our new defensive tackle, going alongside Lee McNeil, Isaiah Buggs, Benito Jones. He is a little raw. He needs to work on his pad level, getting in position, but his brute strength as a one technique, two technique defensive tackle is on display so far. Some of the beat writers wrote an article a couple days ago about how he just took Frank Ragnow and shifted him down. We got to remind ourselves, Frank Ragnow, he's one of the top 2 centers in the league. He's not a guy that you move around easily. So Broderick Martin coming in and just getting his hands on Ragnow and shifting him down and getting into the backfield for a TFL is huge. That has me super pumped on what his ceiling might be. One of the early losers for me is going to be Julian Agholor. This dude has been with the team for, I think, 3 years now, and he just hasn't really put it all together. His talent, his ceiling is up here. Obviously, his brother, Romeo, he was coming back from injury as well, so it's kind of cool having 2 brothers on the team, but Julian just hasn't been able to take that next step. Dan Campbell was asked about it in one of his press conferences a couple days ago, and it's someone who they have eyes on. He has all the talent in the world. It's just about consistency and putting it all together. And that's where he's just been really kind of coming up short as of late. if he could do it consistently, bring it in and day out, this cat would be a 10 sack player, but he doesn't have the ability to piece it all together just yet. So I think it's someone we're going to have to keep our eyes out on for preseason and see how he, how he plays, how he's reacting. Is he able to make those plays against second and third stringers in preseason? Because he has a very high uphill battle to go to make this roster. He's going up against Charles Harris, his brother Romeo, James Houston V. All of those three guys are in front of him, so he's going to really have to show out to be able to make this team. So someone to keep your eyes out on. Hopefully he can turn around and be a contributor for this team, but I don't think he has the skill set or the consistency to make that final 53. So he's going to be one of those players that he's going to land on another NFL roster. I guarantee it. There's just a lack of high quality edge rushers. Not that he is high quality, but he has that potential. So I think that potential is going to interest some teams. So he's going to be one of those players that he won't make it to our practice squad, but he will get picked up by another team once we get down to those roster cuts. Another big winner is going to be Aiden Hutchinson. Everything I've heard and everything I've seen out of camp is this kid has shown up. He's put in so much work over the offseason to get bigger, stronger, faster. And it's the mindset shift of, when you go from your collegiate career into the NFL, you're training for the combine, right? You want to lean out, you want to be fast, you want to be strong with the bench, you want to hit those 3 cone drills super fast. Now it's, all right, I have an NFL year underneath my belt. I need to get bigger, I need to get stronger to be able to, have my way with these right and left tackles, and also to be quicker off the edge as well. So if you see some photos of him, this kid is looking mean. I really expect him to have a breakout year.
Finish with this, a little word association kind of. I'm going to say a name of the guys that you face every day along that defensive line, and I want the first word that comes to mind when I say a guy. That's the one we go with. Let's first start with Aiden Hutchinson.
Relentless. He's definitely added some muscle. He's bigger.
Yeah.
And we can feel it with his power in the rush, in the pass rush. And man, he's what you want in your first round pick.
My hot take is that he was robbed of the Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. He had 3 interceptions. Sauce Gardner had 0. Be that as it may, I expect Aiden to have a really big year for us this year. Double-digit sacks. It'd be cool if he got some more interceptions, but I'm not going to bank on it. But I do expect him to be something that offenses are going to have to game plan for. And I do expect him to be a disruptor off the edge, especially on the other end. If you have a John Kaminsky or Charles Harris coming off, that's a really good 1-2 punch on the edges. So that might alleviate some of those double teams for Aiden. That way he can break loose and get to the quarterback. But as we all know, iron sharpens iron. And going up against Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker every day, day in and day out, it's only going to make Aiden that much better. You're going up against 2 really good offensive tackles for practice, right? So there's not going to be a whole lot that you haven't seen or you can't prepare for that you're going to see in game-to-game situations. So that's only going to make him so much better. And he's been showing out. He's been getting into the backfield, getting those tackles for loss, getting sacked so far. So he's been really someone that's been stepping it up as we want from the number 2 overall pick. So kudos to this front office. Kudos to Brad Holmes for nailing this one. He did fall into our laps, but man, I can't be happier to have Aiden Hutchinson on this team. The last loser I have is going to be Mohammed Ibraham. He's someone who is picked up as an undrafted free agent out of Minnesota. I haven't heard a whole lot about him, and that's not good from the running back perspective. That running back 3 spot, there's a battle going, behind Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So, if you show out in camp, there's a possibility of making this 53-man roster, but I haven't heard a whole lot from him. He's a little bit smaller in stature, kind of has more of a power back feature to him. So my eyes are on him for preseason just to see how he steps up and how he plays. Really talented running back out of Minnesota. I think he set a lot of their records in terms of rushing yards and attempts and touchdowns. So he has a very good skill set, although he is coming off a pretty devastating injury. So he does have that history as well to him. But I think he's going to be a clear candidate to make the practice squad and someone that we kind of carry and develop. And in that same breath, I would say that Jamar Jefferson is a loser so far. only because from a running back perspective, it's been really hard for him to get onto the field. He's been killing it in special teams, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to push him over the edge so far. So again, that running back group is pretty deep with Mohammed, Craig Reynolds, and Jamar Jefferson. So I'm really kind of curious to see how those snaps play out in preseason, because it is going to be a pretty tight-knit battle. And we have Justin Jackson as well. So very deep group. It's kind of a luxury to have that, especially on such cheap contracts. So I'm really kind of excited to see how that one's going to play out for us. So on that note, we'll wrap it up. Next week, we have the Giants coming into town for joint practices. So hopefully I'll get another video out covering all that. Some highlights, lowlights, things on what we see, what we hear. And then Friday night, we have our first preseason game against the Giants at Ford Field. Super pumped. Fall time is here. My wife is disappointed because football is going to be on nonstop now. Sorry, but we're finally here. We made it through the summer. I couldn't be more ecstatic.